AMD stock hit a new 52-week high this week, and the stock is now sitting at over $400 billion in market cap. Now, in today's episode, what I want to do is take a closer look at everything AMD stock investors should know that happened in the past week. And there's a lot of things from robotics, from healthcare, from competitors like Intel reporting earnings, and they shared a lot of great insight that I think you should know. So let's take a closer look in today's episode. All right, welcome back to another AMD Weekly. This is weekly number 8. So we've been doing this for almost 2 months now. And I am curious, is AMD your number one semiconductor stock? And even if it is, what are your top two semiconductor plays right now? I am curious to kind of hear what you guys are holding in the semiconductor basket. So first, AMD had a great day on Friday, up roughly 7.6%. Now, the company, like I mentioned, market cap of $410. In the past 5 days, the stock is up nearly 7%. But since that overall low that we saw on Wednesday, the stock is up nearly 12%. All right, next I want to take a closer look at AMD's forward PE ratio, and it's currently at 50, where the median is roughly 32.78. Now, this seems pretty high, and some investors might say, Jose, this is looking a lot like January 2024, when we saw the stock, and we can actually even look at the past 5 years. January is when the stock started going up like crazy, and you kind of peaked, and then you saw this massive downturn, right? So some investors were saying, look, it's starting to look like this again, where you're just having crazy valuations. And then what's going to happen is you're going to have a massive pullback. But I think there is a big difference right now. Right now, AMD stock has seen a massive run up because of two things. First is obviously the OpenAI deal. The second, in my opinion, is that massive order from Oracle. Now, what do both these deals kind of have for AMD? Most of them are going to start off with the MI450. And the MI450 is going to come out in Q3 of 2026. So that's about the next 12 months. Then Q4, which the way things ramp up in forms of inventory of products, right? You have a ramp up process where you're going to be able to sell more and more. So I think as we finish Q4, the forward PE ratio of AMD is going to start to drop a lot because analysts are going to start to have better projections on those Q3 and Q4 for next year. So for me, I think it is a little bit different here than where we were in January of 2024, because this run up actually has a probability to see massive growth in earnings. I mean, Lisa Su mentioned with the OpenAI deal that you can expect billions of dollars and both accredited to earnings with these recent deals with OpenAI. So I would say it's a little bit different. And if you want charts like this, make sure to check out fiscal.ai/Jose for 15% off. I use this platform on a daily basis. But would love to hear your thoughts on the current forward PE ratio of AMD. And are you a little bit worried that it's running like crazy and it's looking a little bit like 2024? Now, the next thing I want to look at is AMD did announce kind of a new GPU for the data, not the data, for workstation market. So your next GPU is here for AI developers, the Radeon AI Pro R9700, which brings scalable multi-GPU performance and 32 gigs of VRAM to local AI development, available from select retail partners October 27th for about $1,300, right? And or over that. So first, this is just another way for AMD to make money here in the AI market. I don't think this is going to be something that is going to be a multi-billion-dollar product for them, but it is a product that can help them grow and sell more GPUs overall. As we can see, it is a premium pricing, and it is a market where you have AI developers continuing to grow. And this is actually going to go well with something we're going to talk about later in this channel, where AMD is focusing on bringing more developers to its platforms. And one of the great ways is by bringing products like this, where it's not necessarily for a business, right? Buying $1,300 GPUs is not something insane. It's very doable. So it's a way for developers, for engineers at a work environment to be able to pick this up and increase the development within AMD's ecosystem. Now, another thing that we saw, Lisa Su is out there doing a Jensen signing off on supercomputers. So there is this intense workstation laptop from HP here. using Ryzen AI Max Pro 395. It mentions it runs GPT OSS locally. It runs Battlefield 6 like a desktop, and it has 16x Zen 5 cores for overall these super intelligent supercomputing builds. It was signed by Lisa Su, given to OpenAI. It's pretty interesting. I mean, most presentations OpenAI uses a Mac. So obviously this is just in my opinion, this is more of a just press release, what we see OpenAI do with a lot of its other partners, but still great to see. Now, I was curious of the price. This is the one they're specking out. It's about a $8,000 workstation for next generation AI models, and it is powered by AMD's both CPUs and GPUs. So these high margin markets are available and are there, and there's most likely customers within this AI space. So AMD is doing really well because we do know that it is winning market share, at least in the CPU space, and this is going to help them grow even more and more. Next, I want to take a closer look at a recent article that probably created some momentum on AMD. We've seen some quantum news happen recently, I think, with Google. And according to a Reuters report, a team of IBM researchers will publish a paper on Monday, October 27, detailing how they perform quantum error correction on standard AMD chips, some FPGA chips, right, which are in their embedded market. So this, I think we even talked about this when we first started our weekly episodes of AMD about 2 months ago, which was an AMD and IBM partnership with quantum computing and error correction algorithms using AMD's products. So if that report comes out on October 27th, maybe could create some nice short-term bullish trend. Now, the next thing I want to talk about is AMD shared a blog of advancing robotic simulations with Robotech AI and AMD Silo AI. So, for those that are not familiar with Robotech.ai, it's a company I wasn't familiar with. It's a company that's developing simulation platforms for robotic applications to optimize and scale digital twin and scenario reconstruction workloads for next generation automotive and robotic systems. So, pretty much what they're doing is they're making a form of software and digital twin gym to help train, to help run simulations of robotics in various aspects, right? We can see a form of last minute robot or a robot used in a distribution center. They also talk about the automotive market. Now, if you are an NVIDIA investor, you know NVIDIA has something like this. And this is AMD saying that, look, we're not being left behind in this robotic space. Well, we don't have exactly something ourselves. We're working with open source solutions where our ROCm, our AMD Instinct GPUs are going to be able to enter this market as well. So I think this was pretty amazing to showcase how AMD continues to develop that software stack where it is now showcasing, look, if you want to do in the robotic space, we're working with some great companies that are working on simulation platforms. So I thought that was pretty awesome to see. And it is running on AMD hardware and on AMD software stack. Now, the next thing we saw here is on October 24th, AMD, there was an open source AI week where there were a lot of conferences with open source solutions for AI. And AMD, this is something that they're proud about. So they announced a lot of places that they were in. So days of announcement, demos, and cross-industry collaborations. They were at AMD AI Dev Day on October 20th, Open Agent Summit panel on October 21st, and multiple keynotes and technical presentations at PyTorch conference on October 22nd and 23rd, showcasing AMD's ROCm software, AMD Instinct GPUs, and AMD Ryzen AI power open source AI from research through production. Now, I would say a lot of these presentations and things that happen were more for developers. So they're very tech heavy. I don't think as an investor, you need to watch any of them. As an investor, in my opinion, what you're just looking at is, look, AMD is working on that software stack. It is working on making sure that developers are improving and more developers enter into this ecosystem. Now, there were a few that I have highlighted. So AMD published a new white paper, Training at Scale, which outlines the best practices and system architecture for large scale model training on AMD hardware. This white paper is out right here. And it actually talks about training on AMD's Instinct MI350 and MI300. I only took a quick look at it, but one thing that really grabbed my attention was Having 8,000 GPUs and kind of the upgrade in certain cycles, you're actually having almost a one-to-one um, linear scaling, especially earlier on, right? What you really want to have here is kind of like a straight line down. And that shows like linear scaling. You don't want it to kind of ramp up as you get to higher GPUs, because it means that if you buy more GPUs, it doesn't really make sense, right? Because you're not getting the best performance and stuff like that. So we could see at least until 32,000 GPUs, there is at least a nice steady drop. It's not linear, but it is somewhat there where it looks kind of steady and you're grading the great performance. After you get from 32, from my quick view, it starts to level off and it kind of makes having more GPUs not as efficient on adding them on, right? Normally, you would want a one-to-one improvement. You should always see that linear curve. But 32,000 GPUs is pretty high. This is on the MI355. I would love to see something like this on like the 450 in the future, and we should see the upgrades it has. But overall, even having 32,000 GPUs, AMD becomes a really nice, interesting training player. Now you can obviously check that out. There is a keynote that I'm actually curious to watching from that they develop, and it was at the PyTorch conference. It was you saw a lot of big players. See people from AMD, you see people from Semi Analysis, people from CoreWeave, from Croso. I mispronounce that, but it's another AI company where they talk about collaboration and AI stack. Now, I obviously would love to hear from AMD, Semi Analysis, and CoreWeave. So this is one, it's a keynote discussion. If you haven't watched it, maybe we can find it on the internet. But this is one that I'm going to try to look for throughout the upcoming days and something I'm going to end up watching. Now, coming back into the robotics platform, AMD did have a blog post where they introduced STX Bot, their human responsive social robot prototype powered by AMD's Ryzen AIs. And that's something vision. I forget what it's called. Computer vision simulation, computer vision, something. I know it's something here. Uh, but it showcases, and here is how robotics, again, the overall concept here is it's not something that should be moving the stock price, but it showcases that developers are using AMD's ecosystem and they can use it for something productive. Here we see a form of engineer, developer, kind of coding a robot to mimic a person. So again, it just showcases that developer ecosystem growing little by little. Now, a next one is kind of in the healthcare market. So AI transforming healthcare, MedCosmetics advancing breast cancer detection with screening precision and access powered by AMD's Ryzen processors and ROCm open source platform. So here we see that a company has developed a deep learning algorithm trained on global diversified data sets that enable its AI functions to perform equally well across ethnicities and geographies to help better detect and diagnose breast cancer. This continues with that story that we're seeing this week. Developers, companies using AMD's open software solution, and that can overall, in the long term, be a very, very nice tailwind. Now, I also have some just general news topics that could be exciting. So, Logan, which is a lead product for Google AI Studio plus the Gemini API, mentioned about a few hours ago, everyone is going to be able to vibe code video games by the end of 2025. And while Google doesn't use AMD GPUs at the moment or AMD Instinct, it just showcases the constant development happening in the AI race. And maybe one day, maybe one year, we'll see Google use AMD solutions. Regardless, if they're working with something like this will overall increase the computational needs of AI infrastructure in the future. And there could be other companies that will end up using AMD GPUs with products like this. So it's just an overall market growth. Now, another one here. So this is not necessarily related to AMD, but it's just more an understanding of the overall market. So Anthropic, a major AI company that is growing revenue like crazy, I believe is expected to do 9 billion in 2025. And next year is expected to do closer to $26 billion. That's the massive growth in the AI market. Well, Anthropic this week announced that they're planning to use Google's cloud technologies, including up to 1 million TPUs. Now, OpenAI has chosen 3 players to help kind of develop, at least for now, its AI compute needs. It has NVIDIA, it has AMD, and it has it's designing a chip with Broadcom. Anthropic is doing something similar. It has three players. It has Google's TPUs, it has Amazon's Trainium, and it has NVIDIA chips. Now, the reason I bring this is it just showcases how compute constrained the market is. If these companies need more chips and more chips and more chips. It is not impossible to think in the future, if they do need more products, why wouldn't they go with AMD, or why wouldn't they go with, or why wouldn't they expand into other players, or why wouldn't other AI companies, not Anthropic and not OpenAI, expand into other GPUs outside of NVIDIA? Because as we can see, the market is so constrained that you need to have multiple chip solutions available to you. So I thought that was interesting as just an overall showcasing of the market. Now, Supermicro. So Supermicro recently reported their preliminary results of fiscal year for the first quarter. They reduced their guidance, or they're reducing the revenue they expect this quarter. But they did say something very exciting for AMD. They said that they're seeing robust demand for Supermicro's AMD's 355X liquid cooling. They talk about NVIDIA, but I'm happy that they included the 355 liquid cooling here. That's actually pretty great, and I'm excited to hear some of the numbers when AMD reports earnings. Is it this week? I forget. When is AMD reporting earnings? Regardless, am I gonna do an AMD earnings preview? Maybe. Oh man, when is on the 4th? No, so that's next week. So they report next week. So we will probably cover it in next week's presentation. Another thing from Supermicro expands its portfolio of cloud server provider to offer this new microblade server powered by AMD's EPYC 4005 series processors. Now, this is a very entry-level processor, where AMD mentions AMD EPYC processors are for a wide range of workloads, from entry levels to high performance. The 9000, 8000, 7000 series offer high performance and scalability, while the 4000 series extends the processor family for entry-level systems designed for small business customers and hosted IT services. So here is a entry-level market where AMD is also providing solutions where they are already kind of doing really well in the high performance computing. Now you can kind of have more of an entry level, and AMD has a solution for you. Now, the final topic I want to talk about is Intel. And Intel reported earnings. I have a slideshow here. And if you made it this far, make sure to subscribe to the channel. I'm trying to hit 85,000 subs by the end of the year. Check out whatthechipHappened.com for free AI chip newsletter. And I do have special offers for my viewers. Fool.com/Jose, fiscal.ai/Jose for 15% off. I use the daily for charts. Moomoo, I have an introduction offer there on the link on the pinned comments. I also have some other things like Transpider. Check them out. It would help out the channel if you use any of them. So appreciate it. Now, for AMD, for Intel, they just reported earnings. And the reason I want to talk about them is because they did share a lot of great insight for what AMD investors should know. So I broke down some of the bullish and bearish things. So in forms of the bullish things, the transcript contains bullish signals for AMD, primarily centered on Intel's severe supply constraints, uncompetitive data center products, and poor profits on new products. This creates a massive immediate opportunity for AMD to continue to take market share. First is in the supply. Intel states that they cannot meet demand for their products, particularly on older nodes, and that this problem will persist even worsen in Q1 of 2026. If they can't meet demand, this is a wide open door for customers to switch to AMD's Ryzen and EPYC products, which are already available from TSMC. So I find that extremely bullish. And if Intel is seeing this kind of demand, I can't imagine what AMD, who right now has a technical lead in the consumer space, in the server space, is seeing. So that is extremely bullish in the CPU market. Now, in the data center market, Intel actually admitted that the data center products are uncompetitive. In a very direct admission, Intel CFO stated that their data center products competing with AMD's EPYC are not competitive on either cost or performance, which is why their margins are low. This confirms AMD's strong product leadership in this massive market. Now, the quote is down below, but regardless if you are a leader, we've seen it from NVIDIA, you are able to charge a premium price, right? So that is pretty bullish in my opinion for AMD. The client market. AMD, Intel actually is to manage the supply shortage. Intel is actually prioritizing server chips over entry level PC chips. This is a high volume mainstream PC market that AMD Ryzen can easily grab even more and more market share, right? Because AMD, Intel right now, because of supply shortage, they have to choose who they're going. In AMD at the moment, I don't think has to do that. So they're going to be able to take this opportunity and grab a lot of this market share. Next is Intel mentioning that their new products are hurting its profitability, something that AMD at the moment won't experience just due to their continued process with TSMC and not really having to impact or having that crazy capital expenditure on designing and manufacturing on its own products, right? So on its own factories. So not the greatest news, not the craziest bullish news for AMD, but being profitable, you get more money for research and development, allows you to continue to have this technical lead overall. The final bullish point that I have is Intel confirms that the total addressable market for both PCs and servers is healthy and growing. And the market is seeing its fastest growth since 2021, and the AI server build out is driving strong demand for server CPUs. Two markets where AMD is dominating in technical lead right now. Now, if there's also a few bearish points, I don't think any of the bearish points, though, that we're going to see right now are any threat in the short term. There's more like small or mid yellow flags for the first for 1 or 2 plus years. First is we talked about this. The NVIDIA Alliance is a little bit of a threat with NVLink Solutions entering the x86 market. So that's an interesting collaboration. Eventually, Intel is stable. It's going to stabilize. It's well funded right now with governments, with ARM, with NVIDIA. That now it can probably be a little bit more aggressive with the stabilization, not have to completely play a true defense game. It is targeting AMD. Intel is no longer just trying to defend, it's trying to kind of create an offensive data center and PC gaming. In the PC gaming, it really wants to focus this next generation Nova Lake to really kind of be in the high end desktop, a market where AMD continues to dominate, but they believe the Nova Lake will provide some competition there. The second thing is they talk about it in the server space. In the server space, AMD has done really well because of multi-threading capabilities. In the overall transcript is multi-trading, but it's multi-threading capabilities. With Granite Rapids, they're starting to include that as well. So again, all these, in my opinion, are something that it will take time to implement. It will take time for customers to even start to like it or use it. And at the moment, AMD just needs to continue to have this competitive lead in the CPU space. But I believe Intel earnings, while it was extremely bullish for Intel stock, the stock was up. We saw that massive jump before pulling back down. I believe it was a lot more bullish for AMD overall. So I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. I know it was a little bit longer than the previous ones, but there was a lot of information that I think you should have known. And let me know in the comments below if you learned anything new. Anything. I hope I taught one thing new. And take care, have a good day, and see you all next time.